Let's begin with the facts, because they are so much crueler than any fiction. You are born around the year 760, not in the heartland of your future masters, but in the Visigothic kingdom, in what they now call Spain. Your family is noble, influential, landed. They are the sort of people who believe their names will be etched into the stone of ages. Then the world ends. The Umayyad Caliphate pours across the strait, a tide of sand and steel and a different god. Your family's stone-etched legacy is washed away in a single generation. You are not born into a kingdom, but into its collapse. Your fate is not a choice. It is a curse inherited from your defeated father. The curse of displacement. You are a refugee. A highborn one, to be sure, which is the worst kind. You have all the arrogance of nobility with none of the land or power to back it up. An early memory, the one that truly matters, isn't of a mother's lullaby or a father's lesson. It is the dust of the road heading north over the Pyrenees. It is the taste of charity bread in a monastery in Septimania. It is the quiet, constant, burning shame of being an outsider, a remnant, a ghost from a dead kingdom. This is not a path. It is an escape route. The end of your childhood begins when you are old enough to be useful. Let's call it age 12, though you were probably old before that. Your transformation doesn't happen in a grand castle or a bustling military camp. It happens in the chilling silence of a cathedral school in southern Gaul. Here, you are not a boy. You are a project. The methodology is simple and brutal. Your mind is the only asset you have left, so it must be sharpened into a weapon. Lesson 1 is Latin. You will not just learn it. You will master it, wield it with a purity and elegance that makes the native Franks sound like grunting farmhands. Lesson 2 is theology. You will memorize the church fathers, dissect scripture, and learn to build arguments like siege engines, designed to demolish any opponent. Lesson 3 is survival. Every debate you lose, every line of poetry that falls flat, is met with a cold, isolating disapproval that feels worse than a physical blow. Failure means a return to the road, to the dust, to being a nobody. So you do not fail. You learn that praise from your masters is a currency more valuable than gold. You learn that intellectual perfection is your only shield in a world that sees you as a foreign curiosity. This is how they rewire you. The passionate, proud Visigothic boy is buried alive. In his place, they construct a scholar, a tool. Individuality is a dangerous luxury. Empathy is a flaw in the system. Your childhood innocence is not lost. It is scientifically extracted, piece by piece, and replaced with dogma, rhetoric, and a desperate, cloying ambition. You become the perfect servant because you have no other choice. You are remade in their image, and you learn to hate the boy you once were for his weakness. Now for the gilded lie. The myth is that you are a light in the darkness. You are a titan of the Carolingian Renaissance, a shepherd of the imperial flock, an architect of a new Roman order. You are Charlemagne's wisdom made manifest, striding across the land to bring justice to the benighted. It is a beautiful story. Now for the biological hell you actually inhabit. Let's talk about hygiene. There is none. The stench of unwashed humanity is the air you breathe. It clings to your fine episcopal robes, a constant reminder that you are just another mammal slowly decaying. Lice are your frequent travel companions, nesting in the seams of your clothes. The roads are a river of mud and manure, and after a day's ride, you are caked in it, a walking piece of the landscape. Your diet is a punishment. It is a monotonous cycle of coarse bread so hard it could be used as a whetstone. There is pork, of course, glistening with fat, and game when your host wants to impress you, but it's all seasoned with the same sweet sour tang that hovers on the edge of rot. The wine is thin and acidic, a gut-scouring liquid that passes for a beverage. Every meal is a gamble with dysentery, a roll of the dice against crippling stomach pains miles from anywhere. And your health? It's a joke. Every town you visit is a petri dish of new and exciting diseases. A simple cut from a fall on the road can fester into a death sentence. Fevers, plagues, infections. These are your true flock, and they are always waiting. You are the emperor's will, a vessel of divine justice. but you are still just one bad sip of water away from an agonizing, undignified end in a filthy monastic infirmary. This is the grand reality of building an empire. Let's move on to your moment of glory. It is the year of our Lord 800, give or take. You are in your prime, the emperor's chosen instrument, sent to the lands of your youth in southern Gaul. This is not a homecoming. It is an infestation. Your task is to be the exterminator. The challenge is the endemic, soul-deep corruption of the local Frankish counts and judges who rule this land. They have grown fat and complacent, treating the law as their personal menu, selecting which imperial capitularies to enforce and which to ignore. The stakes are simple. If you fail, the emperor's authority is a joke. If you succeed, you prove the system works, but you also paint a target squarely on your own back. Your execution is a masterpiece of bureaucratic warfare. You arrive in a town not with a legion, but with a handful of clerks and a mountain of parchment. Your weapon is your mind, honed to a razor's edge in that cold cathedral school. You listen. Day after soul-numbing day, you listen to the endless procession of human misery. This man's neighbor moved a boundary stone in the night. This woman's brother was cheated of his inheritance by a judge who was bribed with a fine Spanish horse. This merchant had his goods confiscated by a count who fancied his wife. The powerful try to charm you, inviting you to lavish dinners where the wine is a little too good and the smiles are a little too wide. They offer you gifts, a richly embroidered tablecloth, a rare coin from the caliphate, a beautiful boy or girl for the night. You refuse it all with a cool, clinical detachment that infuriates them. You see the gears turning in their heads, the frantic calculation as they realize you cannot be bought. Your climax is not a single moment, but a slow, methodical strangulation by ink. You document everything. Every lie, every contradiction, every pathetic attempt at bribery. You then unleash your true power, composing your great poem against the judges. It's not just a poem, it's a weaponized audit, a work of art that is also a final report to your master, Charlemagne. You name names, you detail crimes, you expose the entire rotten structure with the elegant precision of a master butcher. You don't just accuse them, you humiliate them with literature. The immediate aftermath is glorious. A particularly loathsome count is stripped of his office, his power broken not by a sword but by a well-turned Latin hexameter. Your reputation is cemented. You are Theodulf of Orleans, the brilliant, the incorruptible, the outsider who became the ultimate insider, the emperor's most trusted voice, a pillar of the court at Aachen. You are, for a brief, shining moment, a legend. But legends don't have to live through the day-to-day. You do, and the daily grind is a special kind of hell designed just for you. Your typical week is a blur of tedious travel and even more tedious justice. Monday is a hearing about a stolen pig. Tuesday is a dispute over milling rights that has been festering for 3 generations. Wednesday is spent deciphering a poorly written land grant from a century ago. Thursday is another long ride through the rain. Friday is another smiling, treacherous bishop trying to get you to favor his monastery in a lawsuit. It is a soul-crushing parade of petty human greed, and you are the final arbiter of it all. The weight of it is immense. Now let's talk about the societal contempt, the price of your power. You are the most feared man in any room you enter, and also the most hated. Consider the Frankish count you are dining with, the one whose administration you are there to inspect. He calls you, my Lord Bishop, and offers you the best cut of meat. But you see the look in his eyes when he thinks you're not watching. It is a cold, reptilian hatred. He sees you as an effete, foreign-born snake sent from the capital to meddle in his affairs. To him, you are not justice. You are an inconvenience to be managed, and, if possible, removed. The common folk grovel at your feet, begging for your favor, but they too fear you. You are not their champion. You are an alien power, a representative of a distant emperor whose laws often feel like just another form of oppression. The law itself reinforces your isolation. As a Mrs. Dominicus, you are forbidden from acquiring land or local interests in the territory you inspect, a rule designed to ensure your impartiality. but its real effect is to ensure you are always a stranger, a man with no roots, no local allies, a ghost floating through their world before disappearing again. You are utterly, profoundly alone. You exist in this perfect, lonely equilibrium for years. Then your God dies. Not the one in heaven, but the one on earth. In the year 814, Charlemagne, your protector, your master, your entire reason for being, breathes his last. The air at the palace in Aachen changes overnight. It grows colder, thinner. His son, Louis, takes the throne. They call him the Pious, which is a polite way of saying he is insecure, sanctimonious, and deeply paranoid. You are now a walking, talking relic of the old regime. Your closeness to the great man is no longer a shield. It is a stain. This is the precipice. A seemingly routine transfer of power that, for you, is the beginning of the end. The fatal error comes in 817. Bernard, the king of Italy and the emperor's nephew, stages a pathetic, ill-conceived rebellion. You are hundreds of miles away, completely uninvolved, likely sighing at the stupidity of it all. But your fatal error was never going to be an action. It was your very existence. All those years of incorruptibility, all those humiliated counts and resentful bishops, have created a long line of enemies who have been waiting patiently in the shadows. Now is their chance. A whisper starts in a dark corner of the court. A rival sees an opportunity to remove a piece from the board. Your name, the great Theodulf of Orleans, is linked to the conspiracy. It's a perfect, elegant lie. The brilliant foreigner, the upstart Visigoth, who got too powerful, was a traitor all along. Of course he was. You are the ideal scapegoat, the outsider whose fall will offend no one who truly matters in the new order. The point of no return arrives swiftly, and with bureaucratic coldness. There is no grand trial. There is no forum for you to unleash your legendary rhetoric. The Emperor, Louis, needs to project strength. He needs to purge the court of his father's men. He signs a piece of parchment, and just like that it is over. You are arrested. You are formally accused. You are stripped of your bishopric, your abbeys, your titles, your wealth. The entire architecture of your life, a structure you spent 40 years building with painstaking, sycophantic perfection, is demolished in an afternoon. The realization is not a slow dawn. It is a lightning strike. One moment you are the system's greatest champion. The next, you are its refuse. You are no longer Theodulf the Just. You are Theodulf the traitor. This is where the true horror begins. The horror of the mind. You are exiled to a monastery in Angers. It is not a holy retreat. It is a cage. The silence of the cloister, once a symbol of scholarly peace, is now a roaring torment. Every quiet moment is filled with the echoes of your own public disgrace. You, the ultimate judge, spend your days being judged by every monk who scurries past, his eyes averted. You, the author of Against the Judges, are now the judged. The supreme irony of your situation is not a philosophical concept. It is a physical presence, a poison that contaminates every prayer, every meal, every memory. The paranoia begins to bloom, a black flower in the ruins of your mind. Were they always plotting against you? Was Charlemagne's favor the only thing keeping the wolves at bay? Was your entire life at court just a long, elaborate performance for an audience that secretly despised you? Your anesthetic of choice is not wine or some other crude vice. It is something far more pathetic. You retreat into the one fortress they cannot storm. Your own intellect, you write. You write with the frantic, obsessive energy of a drowning man. You compose dense theological arguments and intricate, beautiful poetry. This isn't for God. It isn't for a future reader. It's for you. It is a desperate act of self-medication. Every perfectly balanced line of verse is a small piece of order you can impose on a world that has descended into chaos. Every complex theological point is a futile attempt to prove to yourself that logic and reason still hold sway somewhere in the universe. During this time, you write your masterpiece of sorrow, the hymn Gloria, laus et honor. All glory, laud, and honor to thee, Redeemer King. It is a work of breathtaking beauty, born from the depths of personal and professional ugliness. It is not a song of praise. It is the meticulous, desperate labor of a man building a new prison for his consciences, a prison made of art, because the one made of stone and shame has become unbearable. And so you scribble away in your cage, a ghost haunting the margins of your own life. Then, one day, the cage door simply swings open. It is the year 821. There is no grand declaration of your innocence. There is no apology. Politics have shifted again. A few of your old allies have the new emperor's ear. Your continued imprisonment has become a minor embarrassment, a loose thread. So, with the stroke of a pen, you are pardoned. You are free to go. Your final setting is not the glorious cathedral at Orleans. It is not a hall filled with cheering crowds. It is a dusty, anonymous road leading away from the monastery at Angers. It is the profound anticlimax of a life that was once so filled with high drama. The cause of your end is as pathetic as your release. There is no final confrontation, no dagger in the dark from a vengeful enemy. That would be far too dignified. Instead, on your journey back towards a life you can never truly reclaim, you just stop. Perhaps it's a fever, a common pestilence that your tired, broken body simply can't fight off. Perhaps it's a subtle poison, administered quietly in a cup of wine by someone who thinks your pardon was a mistake. Or maybe, most likely, it's just the sheer, crushing weight of it all. The disgrace, the injustice, the profound exhaustion. Your heart, having withstood decades of political maneuvering and intellectual warfare, simply gives out. Your death is a trivial, unrecorded event, a brief flicker of guttering candlelight. Your final moments are not spent contemplating God or your legacy. They're spent in a drab guest room in some forgotten abbey. There's the cold sweat on your brow. There is the labored wheeze in your chest. There's the stark, final realization that the brilliant legal mind of Theodulf of Orleans is being defeated by a simple biological failure. You, who once decided the fate of entire provinces, cannot even command your own lungs to draw breath. You die quietly. You die anonymously. Your passing warrants, at most, a brief, misspelt entry in a local chronicle, noting the death of a certain Spanish bishop. The system you perfected, and that later consumed you, now processes your death with absolute, bureaucratic indifference. And now for the final, exquisite irony. In the immediate aftermath, you are forgotten. Worse, you are remembered incorrectly. The official histories, written by your enemies and their allies, list you as a footnote. You are Theodulf the conspirator, a cautionary tale about the dangers of pride and foreign influence. Your life's work, your stand against corruption, your fierce loyalty to the idea of justice, all of it is buried under the simple, effective lie of your treason. Your legacy is oblivion. But then time begins its strange work. Centuries pass. The Carolingian Empire frays and collapses. The names of the petty counts you fought and the paranoid emperor who broke you fade into scholastic obscurity. They become dust. But the song you wrote in your cell, the hymn born of your deepest despair, somehow survives. It is copied by monks. It is added to liturgical books. It detaches itself completely from you, its disgraced and miserable author. It becomes a piece of timeless, sacred art. Here is the punchline to the cruel joke of your existence. For the next 1,200 years, millions upon millions of people will stand in churches on Palm Sunday and sing your words. They will sing all glory, laud, and honor, and feel a surge of religious fervor. The beautiful hymn, your anesthetic for the soul, becomes a pillar of the Catholic liturgy. Your brutal, thankless life of service and your agonizing, unjust end are completely erased. The world, it turns out, had no use for your life. It only wanted your pain, once it had been safely processed into a few minutes of beautiful music. History is never the story of a life lived. It is merely the most popular story we choose to tell about it later. And yours is a very pretty song. Let us linger on that ending, because the squalor of it deserves a closer look. Your final room does not overlook a grand cathedral square. It overlooks a muddy courtyard where monks dump vegetable peels. The air is thick with the smell of damp wool and boiled cabbage. The blanket covering you is coarse homespun and smells faintly of every other sick man who has used it. A novice brings you water in a clay cup, and you can taste the grit of the river at the bottom. You, who once advised the most powerful man in the Western world, are now a piece of human refuse being tended to with the barest minimum of Christian charity. The sounds from outside are a particular torment. You can hear the distant clang of a blacksmith's hammer, the rumble of a cart on the road, the laughter of healthy men. It is the sound of a world that is moving on, a world that has already forgotten you exist. Each breath is a small, rattling failure. Your brilliant mind, that great engine of law and theology, is now trapped inside a crumbling biological machine. Its final thoughts are not of heaven or salvation. They are of the infuriating, mundane details of its own shutdown. The film over your eyes, the ringing in your ears, the profound, embarrassing absurdity of your own mortality, and the legacy. Let's truly appreciate the cosmic scale of the joke. Picture it a grand Gothic cathedral a few centuries later, sunlight streaming through stained glass that cost more than your entire life's earnings. A bishop in robes of silk and gold, fabrics you only ever saw on the emperor himself, leads a choir. They sing your song. They sing the words you wrote to keep from screaming in a damp monastic cell. Jump forward again. A Spanish mission in a new world you couldn't possibly imagine, where local people who have been violently conquered are taught your hymn as a tool of their own subjugation. Your private pain has become an instrument of empire, just as you once were. Jump again. A small, clapboard church in the 20th century, a digital organ poorly imitating a pipe organ, people in clothes of strange, synthetic materials. They hold printed sheets of paper and sing your lament, blissfully unaware of the disgraced, forgotten man whose misery birthed the melody. Your suffering has been laundered through time, stripped of its context, and turned into a durable consumer good. It is the ultimate success story. Not for you, of course. For the story itself. The messy, inconvenient reality of your life was the grit in the oyster. Your hymn is the pearl they harvested after you had long since decayed and been discarded. It's proof that what matters is not the life you live, but the usefulness of your ruins.